For most players, winning a championship is an indescribable feeling.
I made it, man! Top of the world! Top of the world!
And then there's Nikola Jokic, who just wanted to go home.
The job is done, we can go home now.
And if you're looking forward to a parade coming up in Denver.
When is parade?
Thursday.
No. I need to go home.
But what's crazy is that this might be the reason he's so good, and no one's picked up on it. It's easy to overlook what the Joker did last year in the finals because he's quote-unquote boring to watch and doesn't really show emotion. So to put into perspective how historic this finals run was, here's a list of every single NBA player in the history of the game who has averaged 30 points and 7 assists in the NBA Finals. Undoubtedly, there is something unique that sets Jokic apart from the pack because absolutely none of this is normal. Now, despite the big man winning the MVP in 2021 and 2022 due to the fact that he played for a small market team, we'd never really seen or heard much from him over his career. So, when he was crowned an NBA champion, we finally got a glimpse of who he really was as he viciously celebrated his title. Yep, this man hates his job. No, like, he literally hates his job.
Nobody likes his job, or maybe they do. They're lying.
In all seriousness, there's more to this man than what we see on the court. He doesn't use social media. He watches Serbian horse racing during practice. He spends his off-season drinking beer. He might pick up a ball once or twice.
No, he didn't.
Okay, no he doesn't. And yet somehow, he comes back every year and continues to dominate the NBA. But how? Well, allow me to explain. I recently stumbled across a website called 180 Shooter, and on there you can find a report about game slippage and practice reps by Brian McCormick. In other words, how well a player shoots in a game versus in practice. The article is centered around Kyle Korver, who 4 or 5 years ago was considered to be one of the NBA's best shooters. Now you say, what does this have to do with the thing nobody's picked up about Nikola Jokic? Just hear me out. McCormick explains how in 2017, Korver shot 38% from 3 when contested, 48% when open, and 55% when wide open in game situations. And while he explains that reports are hard to come by in practice, he says Brian Scalabrine once watched Korver make 98 out of 100 threes. This was probably a good day for Korver, but McCormick indicates it's safe to assume he shoots over 70% from 3 in practice. What's interesting to note is the percentage differential on wide open threes between practice and games. What causes a 15% drop in Korver's shooting when defense is not a factor? Well, I believe it's the very thing that makes Jokic so successful. McCormick puts it down to arousal.
What?
No, not that kind of arousal. I was a bit confused at first myself, so I did some further digging and I came across something called the Yerkes-Dodson law. This might seem like it's getting a little complex, but the Yerkes-Dodson law simply just explains the relationship between pressure and performance. In this case, arousal relates to a player's feeling of alertness, excitement, or stress at any point in the game. This can be influenced by factors like who's watching, fans, coaches, celebrities, family, how high the stakes are in the game, if it's a nationally televised game, if it's a game in the NBA Finals, the consequences of missing a shot, what the media narrative might be, you get the point. Now, arousal can be broken down into 3 levels: low, optimal, and high. Korver, and most players in the NBA for that matter, probably fall somewhere around optimal to high range of arousal on game day due to the fact their emotional investment in the game is most likely relatively high. However, this kind of arousal can interfere with cognitive processes and fine motor skills, leading to mistakes, which explains why Korver experienced a 15% drop-off in shooting during games compared to practice. But this is where it gets really interesting. I then came across something in the Yerkes-Dodson law, which is that, in some cases, individuals might perform better when they aren't as concerned about the outcome as others. Therefore, they experience less stress or pressure. This is where I believe Jokic falls, closer to the optimal level of arousal, which begs the question, is it possible that his decreased emotional investment in the game is actually what makes him so dangerously good? Is it the fact that Jokic doesn't take himself or the game too seriously that actually works in his favor? Now, obviously, you don't become a two-time MVP by chance, and by no means am I questioning his drive and work ethic, his competitiveness, or passion for the game. And while we don't know Jokic's state of mind, what we do know is that the NBA media cooked up a storm around the man.
Who do you think is under the most pressure to get a ring this year?
It's Jokic. It has to be.
I've never seen a disconnect like this where a guy monopolizes the MVP, and yet he floats in and out of my top 5 at like 5.
He's not as dominant as the numbers suggest.
You know it was 8 games this season where Jokic had single-digit shot attempts. All of a sudden, he started searching for them assists,
I don't think anybody lies awake at night thinking about Jokic because
Voters, wake up.
Yeah.
MVPs don't just all of a sudden in the postseason become un-MVPs.
I could name 10 guys you want on the court before I mention Jokic,
Giannis
right?
is number 1.
Nikola Jokic is having his numbers padded?
You heard what the hell I said.
All of a sudden, with back-to-back MVPs and nothing to show for it when it truly mattered, the pressure for Jokic to win was mounting. For many, it probably would have proved too much. But for Jokic, it was just another day at the office. What we can put his ability to handle this pressure down to is up to interpretation, and I am no psychologist, just an avid fan of the NBA. But I believe Jokic's demeanor sets him apart. He stays off social media, not fussed about winning awards, narratives, legacy, or what people say about him. As he said himself after winning the championship, "We succeeded in our jobs. It's an amazing feeling, but I think it's not the most important thing in the world. There's a bunch of things that I like to do. That thing for Jokic? Horse racing." As NBA writer Sean Powell explains, he has other passions. Basketball is his job, but horses? That belongs to his heart and soul. Spending his off-season in Serbia, away from the spotlight, watching his horses go around the track. An invaluable outlet that constantly keeps him grounded. So, when he's on the world's biggest stage, he is just simply there to do his job. Nothing more, nothing less. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Until next time, peace out.